Assalamualaikum and hi to all viewers out there. In this presentation video, we will explain about Chapter 4, Offshore Financial Center. And before we move on to the presentation, let me first introduce our presenter, including me, Muhammad Hafiz MUSLIE. First, we have Nur Hadi MASTURA as our first presenter. The next one is Muhammad Hazim WAFFA, and last but not least is Muhammad Haris. We are from Banking Class D. And generally, this topic has a various section. The first one is International Investment Bank, and then explanation about offshore financial centers in detail. And the third one, we have credit risk, which is related to international risk management. And the last one is about the current issue in this subtopic. Now we move on to our first presenter, Nur Hadi MASTURA.
Now, I'm going to talk about the International Investment Bank. The International Investment Bank is a type of bank to help businesses and governments sell their new securities issues, whether they are debt or equity, in the primary market so that they can pay for their capital projects. For your information, investment banks mostly work with big businesses and other big institutions, and they usually don't work with people who are individual organizations. So, what did these banks do for their customers? What did actually they do? Firstly, they buy new issues. It is the process of giving long-term equity and debt money to businesses and governments, mostly by issuing new securities. Secondly, they develop new products. Among other things, hybrid products have been created in Islamic banking so that Muslims and non-Muslims from all over the world can meet their needs and wants at the same time. And lastly, offering guidance. The specific service is supplied in connection with corporate restructuring exercises as well as the reorganization of companies during oil operations. Next, I will pass the slide to my next presenter. Go on, Hafiz.
Thank you, Hani. That one was quite concise. Now, I will talk about Offshore Financial Center. And what is it? Alright, an Offshore Financial Center, otherwise known as an OFC, is defined as a country or jurisdiction that makes available financial service to non-residents with a purpose of circumventing aspects of the non-resident's home country or jurisdiction. Okay, and these financial centers are generally used as a locations for assets holding companies to achieve tax avoidance, and actually too often they are used illegally for tax evasion. How does it work? Company assets such as intellectual property are parked in these foreign entities. This can protect these assets from liability and allow the allocation of certain revenues to the assets rather than allocation to the country of use or sale. And whereas taxes may be higher, and the structure also allows the holders of assets and that to pass ownership to his or third parties without going through their home country probate system. What is the part for OFC that involves? Okay, actually, the International Monetary Fund categorized OFC as being third-class financial centers, and along with the international financial centers and regional financial centers. Now, I will pass to Haris for the next slides. Let's go, Haris.
Thank you, Mr. Hafiz. For my part, I will be presenting about credit risk related to international risk management. Credit risk is the potential for loss as a result of a borrower defaulting on a loan or failing to fulfill contractual obligations. Credit risk management focuses on maximizing a bank's risk-adjusted rate of return by maintaining credit risk exposure within acceptable limits. There are three main types of credit risk. Let's go through one by one. Credit default risk is one of main types of credit risk. Credit default risk arises when a borrower is unable to pay the loan obligation in full, or when the borrower is more than 19 days past the loan repayment due date. All credit-sensitive financial transactions, such as loans, bonds, securities, and derivatives, may be affected by credit default risk. Another main type of credit risk is country risk. Country risk is the risk that a country may default on its debts if it freezes its foreign currency payment obligations. The risk is associated with the country's political instability and poor macroeconomic performance. which may have a negative impact on the value of its assets or operating revenues. Changes in the business environment will have an impact on all companies operating within a certain country. Lastly, concentration risk is the level of risk that occurs from exposure to a single counterparty or sector, and it has the potential to cause substantial sums of losses that may jeopardize the lender's main operations. The risk emerges from the observation that more concentrated portfolio led diversification, and so the returns on their underlying assets are more correlated. A corporate borrower, for example, that relies on one major buyer for its main products has a high level of concentration risk and the potential for significant losses if the main buyer stops buying their products. To sum up, banks should also take into account the interrelationship between credit risk and other risks. Credit risk management is a key factor in any banking institution's long-term performance and is a critical part of a comprehensive risk management approach.
Thank you so much, Harith, for your presentation. Now let's talk about the current issues that related with the subtopic. The issue is about legitimate and illegitimate offshore bank account. This issue is up on 18 October 2021 by the Edge Malaysia. In this issue about offshore bank account, there are so many topics that have been up to. So let's go one by one. The first topic is why are offshore account useful for? For some, having an offshore account is also a form of diluting political risk, especially when they are concerned about the stability of banking system. Why I say this is because when we have an offshore account, it's gonna make others easier. The other that I said means access to fund for education, medical, emergency and transactional need. The second hot topic is highly globalized trading economy. Malaysia has highly globalized economy with high level of international trade. Its total trade in 2020 reached RM 1.8 trillion and the trade to GDP ratio was 170% in 2020. We mostly add value to semiconductor products that are imported and re-exported. Last but not least, the topic that the Edge Malaysia up is outward foreign investment. For a small country, Malaysians are big investors overseas. Outward foreign direct investment or FDI by Malaysian companies have been rising since 1990s. Of the last 10 years, FDI has constantly outpaced inward FDI, according to the Bank Negara data. So that's all from me. Now I pass to Hani for the conclusion. Thank you.
Overall, what did you guys have learned so far? Offshore bank is a banking institution that is no stranger to large businesses, and we as banking students must know every type of financial institutions which are available throughout Malaysia and abroad. That is all from us. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and have a nice day. Bye.